I'm back here with Graham Elwood, and we're talking about President Biden is quietly extending a policy that critics call a betrayal of his campaign promise to end mandatory minimum sentences. The measure could land more low-level drug dealers in prison for longer and with less proof than is usually required. I can't believe the guy who wrote the crime bill would do such a thing. I can't believe it. Biden could have taken the war on drugs down a notch, but he didn't. A little notice law could make it easier to punish people for low-level drug crimes and put them in prison for longer with less proof. And you know Joe Biden wants you to be nice to his son who's a drug addict and should be in prison, but isn't because why? Because his dad was the vice president and now his dad's the president. So he gets to write a book about his drug addiction. He gets to have pictures all over the internet about his drug addiction. He gets to shame people who ridicule him for his drug addiction, but he doesn't have to go to prison for it. But everybody else does. Joe Biden's kid doesn't, but everybody else's kid has to go to prison. And now do you know why I don't give a shit about Hunter Biden's drug addiction? And I don't have sympathy for them? Because they're self-dealers. They don't give a shit about your drug addiction. They want you to go to prison for it. But not Hunter Biden. But everybody else has to go to prison. That's according to Joe Biden. So fuck Hunter Biden and fuck Joe Biden. And their addictions. They should be in prison. I mean, so he's ramping up the war on drugs. That's what he's doing. Joe Biden, you elected a guy ramping up the war on drugs. Did you vote for Richard Nixon? That's what it seems like we voted for. Richard fucking Nixon. And let's be honest, Joe Biden's never seen a war he didn't like or want to ramp up. I wrote the damn bill. He wrote the 1994 crime bill, which gave us mass incarceration, more prisons, longer sentencing, escalated the war on drugs, and targets African Americans. And he's doing it again, you fucking chumps. He's doing it again, and the squad gives him an A. And the squad isn't corrupt if you use a definition that's not in the dictionary. The squad's not corrupt if you use a definition that's not in a dictionary, which is convenient when you want to protect them. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer released sweeping draft legislation Wednesday to legalize weed, officially kickstarting a difficult debate in his chamber that also makes a major splash for one of his campaign promises. Look at that. And he's got those cool, hip glasses, Daddy-O. Jen Psaki, Biden unmoved on marijuana legalization despite Schumer's legislation. The horrifying moment when even Chuck Schumer is too progressive for Joe Biden. Where's Bernie on this? Silent, taking orders from the corporatist warmonger like he's fucking always has. Where's your movement, Bernie? Where's this movement? Where is it? Asked about the majority's leader's proposal. I've done more without a movement than he has with it. Where was your push for Medicare for all, Bernie? I did one in December. Where was yours? You never did one. Asked about the majority leader's proposal, Jackie told reporters at her Wednesday press briefing that Biden's stance on marijuana legalization has not changed. I have spoken in the past about the president's views on marijuana, Psaki told the White House press corps, adding, nothing has changed. What if we slip some edibles in his ice cream? How about that? Hey, Joe Biden to rich donors, nothing would fundamentally change if he's elected. Joe Biden is like if heat exhaustion and a late fee made a person. So now, Graham, I know you don't imbibe and you're sober, but what do you think about this recriminalization of the lowest level drug offenders? And why do you think he's doing it?
Because he's a rich white guy. I mean, this is pretty standard. Rich white people, they're rich drug addict, shithead, creep kids like Hunter Biden. They get off the hook. But anyone who, especially if you're a person of color, you get caught smoking a plant, you go to prison. So it's just more. And I'm sorry, this is this is the vote any blue will do crowd. This is what you deserve. This is what you get when you think that I'm going to give this guy your vote no matter what. This is what you get. He promises to do all these things. He's not. And you're a sucker. You're a sucker. Once somebody shows you who they are, you listen to them. Joe Biden wrote the 94 crime bill. His vice president is a cop who protected pedophile priests when she was a district attorney in San Francisco, not to mention all the people of color she incarcerated as attorney general. This is who you elected. This is who you were dancing in the streets for. And of course he's not going to do it. This is what they're going to do. They're going to be a half a click to the left of Trump and go, we did it. You know, that we do big change, hooray. And it's unbelievable because, look, when you get money from the private prison industry, like Biden and all the corporate Democrats do, you have to keep this going. You have to keep this gravy train. And so what you do, you change. And then like ICE, he gave more money to ICE. And he changed the kids in cages to kids in facilities. And dipshits are at brunch right now, so they're not going to notice the difference. You know what I mean? Kamala
Harris, I know what you mean.
You can't come to this country, Trump is evil during the campaign. When she's elected, when she's in office, don't come here. Because it's all the same big corporations that fund these people are pushing all of this legislation MSNBC's not going to get outraged about this. Joyanne Reed's, Anderson Cooper, none of these people are going to be screaming about this from the mountaintops because they're paid by the same corporations that fund the Democrats and the Republicans. So it's all just it's all big theater and a big scam. And Vote Any Blue will do suckers will eat these bags of shit every year and tell you that you're the problem. So, okay, great. How's that shit sandwich with an organic bun and lettuce on it taste? Good? Better than the Trump shit sandwich? Love it. It's great.
The rage that I feel, Graham, for the people that we both know that we came up with in comedy that are just on purpose shit libs because they're rich now.
Yeah.
Because they're rich, because they got a job writing for a late night talk show where they made $250,000 a year for fucking 15 years. And, or they married someone who's rich and they don't give a fuck. They've got everything and they've never had to half their medicine. They've never had to worry about going to a deductible for a doctor. They've never, ever had any of those worries. And so that's why they want to vote for Joe Biden, because they don't have any problems that they need Joe Biden to fix.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Joe Biden's tweets are nice.
Yeah, and Joe Biden doesn't make them look at how ugly America really is, like Donald Trump did. So yeah. Donald Trump, you couldn't ignore how ugly America was. But with Joe Biden, you can't ignore it because everyone's telling you a fantasy of what's actually happening. Joe Biden is going to court to make sure immigrants stay in private prison. He's going to court to make sure LGBTQ people stay discriminated against in private religious schools. He's bombing Somalia. He's bombing poor brown people right now. He's a monster. You voted for a monster because you got scared by a game show host.
Yeah. And, all Trump was just the most vulgar version of a president that we've had in terms of he just showed you this is all the things we're doing. We're going to keep the troops in Syria to guard the oil. And I was like, oh, you can't say that. You know what I mean? That's what this is all about. And Joe Biden, it's unbelievable how they learned. Look, the people that really call the shots, they learned under Obama. They go, God, if we put a nice guy in there, a guy that's black and who says nice things, boy, we can get away with murder. Murder. So that's what they're doing. And Trump kind of snuck in. I didn't like Trump. I'm glad he's not president because he did some crazy stuff. But he kept saying stuff that they're like, don't say that. He did it during the Republican primary in 2016. And he ran an anti-interventionist campaign. Now the military-industrial complex isn't going to let him do that. But now I'm done. We got to get rid of Trump. And because none of this, again, these rich Hollywood people that we know, their kids aren't getting snatched up. Right. Their kids aren't getting separated at the border because their kids go to Harvard Westlake, a private school in LA or whatever. Right. You know what I mean? They're not like when their brakes squeak, they don't go, oh God, what am I going to do? I just had Krish Mohan on my show and he was telling me he's caught up in this car loan scam. They said, oh, we'll cut your payments in half. They did to him what they did to me and me losing my house 10 years ago. Oh, because of COVID, you can cut your car loan in half, but they've been charging him interest, and they fucking repossessed his car. And he's just can barely pay his bills. And that's happening to millions of Americans. And the foreclosure and eviction moratoriums are ending in 10 days, and Americans are going to be out on the streets. But, you got a rich Hollywood 6-figure gig. You know what I mean? You made a bunch of money for big corporations in Hollywood, so you're good with this, man. And you can pat yourself on the back and say, oh, I'm not a racist because I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for Joe Biden. Oh, great. Keep telling yourself that.
People who are literally against Medicare for all, like the former executive producer of The Simpsons, Dana Gould, who's against Medicare for all, for people getting health care in the richest country in the world, thinks he's a good person because he voted for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And even though Joe Biden's worse for immigrants and is keeping kids in cages, and it's worse for everything. It's certainly worse for brown people and poor people around the world. Okay, yeah. So that's the rate. So when I see that, I get angry at the system that gives us this. They got angry at Donald Trump.
Right.
No, this is a system, you fucking morons.
And they like addicts. America is a nation of of addicts in one form, either actual addicts or they're just addicted to this two-party system. And rather than go like an addict or someone who grows up in an alcoholic or addicted home, they couldn't go, wow, the Democrats gave us Trump. We should be mad at the Democratic Party. Instead, they blamed all these. That's what addicts do. They're like, man, my boss had it in for me. No, you showed up drunk for work 5 weeks in a row. Like, you know what I mean? You stole money from, no, man, the woman at the DMV screwed me over. You didn't pay renew your plate tags for a year and a half. The woman at the DMV didn't screw you over. That's how addicts have all these ridiculous excuses for everything. And that's why Dana Gould and people like that, who I used to respect comedically, are like okay with the war. They're okay with people dying because we don't have health care because it doesn't affect them. And they refuse to see this is the problem right there. The corporations that run both of these parties, and they don't want to see how awful the Democratic Party is. They just won't do it.
Our live shows are back. August 4th, we're in Burbank. August 7th, we're in Chicago. We're going to Portland. We're going to Boston. We're going to everywhere. Go to jimmydoorecomedy.com for a link for tickets.